Hi there. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is James Nee, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker in private practice in Denver, Colorado. This video is going to be the first of a series of videos that I wanted to make that focuses on social media and social media safety. So social media platforms, although they weren't initially meant to be, are a really big part of our society, and they're becoming more and more ingrained in how we live our lives and how we interact with each other. Social media is a big way of how we express ourselves, connect with each other, and in some cases, it's how we learn or access information. So, what is social media safety, and why is a therapist talking about it? So, when I say social media safety, I think that's a good place to start. I don't just mean reduce your time online or stay off social media. I actually don't really mean that at all when I say social media safety. I mean ways to stay mentally and emotionally well during a time where most, if not all, people are very open with their thoughts and opinions, and they're not always the most kind or thoughtful in expressing those views. Another aspect of social media safety is being able to protect your private information, your identity. That's just part of it today too. This video and pretty much this whole series is going to mostly focus on the emotional and mental well-being aspect of social media safety. So in this video, we're going to be focusing on gaslighting, what that means, what that looks like, and what to do when it's happening to you. Before we get there, I think it's important to talk a little bit about where social media even came from and how we got here. Social media got its start in the early 2000s. So even though it's been around for 20 years, that's still really new for the human species, and we're still figuring a lot out as far as how should this work in our society, what is social media's place in our society, and its influences on culture, for better or for worse. By the way, I should also mention this is not going to be a comprehensive history of social media. It's really a sloppy summary at best. But in a nutshell, MySpace was really the first big social media platform that paved the way for platforms like YouTube and Facebook. YouTube has always been a place where people can upload videos, but Facebook originally got its start for college students. In fact, you actually had to have an email that was attached to a university just to be able to even create an account for Facebook back when it first started. So anyone that wasn't a college student either used MySpace or they just didn't use social media. A few years later, after it got its start, started to gain some popularity, Facebook opened up to the general public, and it's really just kind of grown from there. But even before social media, when email became a norm, we started to notice some changes in how people were interacting with each other. There have been different terms for it, but it was noted that many people were more likely to, one, misinterpret the tone of what the message was that the original person writing it, or sender, was meaning, and then the responder, at times, would be more aggressive or passive-aggressive in their reply because of that misinterpretation. We saw more of this as social media became more popular. Things people would never normally say to another person, to their face, suddenly were showing up in people's posts or their replies or in emails. And then lead up to today, where tensions are high in our society and people are even more emboldened to say things more forcefully, it really starts to tie more into gaslighting, which we're going to start talking about now. So gaslighting is a behavior that people do. Now, when you hear people talk about it and when you're about to hear me describe it, this isn't a new thing. This is a thing that people have done for a very long time, if not forever. It's just now we have a name for it, and we have ways of identifying it, and we've been able to see how negatively it's impacting our society. So it's really important to talk about it. Now, there's a lot of different articles and a lot of different sources of information on gaslighting, and from my understanding, from what I've seen, most of them are good. You can just go online and search gaslighting, and you can learn a lot about what it looks like, how to know if you're doing it, how to handle it if somebody is gaslighting you. In the bio of this video, I have a link to a Psychology Today article. I think Psychology Today has a lot of good resources on gaslighting in particular. But the article that I have a link to in the bio, I'm going to read a quote from it right now that describes gaslighting. Okay. The article says, the term gaslighting comes from a 1938 play, Gaslight, and its film adaptation. Gaslighting can occur in personal or professional relationships, and victims are targeted at the core of their being, their sense of identity and self-worth. Manipulative people who engage in gaslighting do so to attain power over their victims, either because they simply derive warped enjoyment from the act, or because they wish to emotionally, physically, or financially control their victims. So that sounds pretty intense, and it does happen a lot. Now, what I will say, different from what the article is saying, gaslighting on social media, it is about control, but it's more about controlling the conversation and controlling the narrative of what's happening. So what I mean by that is most of the time, people gaslight on social media. Yes, some people gaslight because they're on there just looking for a confrontation. That is true, and that is something that happens. Other times when people gaslight, it's usually in response to somebody disagreeing with them, or somebody pointing out a flaw in what the person was saying, or even just pointing out how what the person is saying is offensive. So the response can be gaslighting. A lot of times without the person, the responder, even realizing they're gaslighting this person. And a lot of times it comes out of protection. Now, it's a very aggressive and passive-aggressive way to communicate and to protect yourself. And a lot of times the source of it is, I don't like how this conversation or this narrative is making me seem like I don't know what I'm talking about, or like a bad person, or not an intelligent person. So then the person will start to gaslight. And what they're doing is they're trying to change the narrative of the story. They're trying to discredit the person who has pointed out the flaw or the offense. And other times, too, when it's even just seeking confrontation, it's maybe not a defense or a protection. A lot of times the whole point of gaslighting, all of the comments are meant to try and make you question yourself and try to get you to change what you were saying to agree with the person who is gaslighting. Okay, so I get that this slide has a lot of words, but just kind of stay with me as I'm reading through it. So when confronted with an offensive post or comment or a gaslighter, these are some things to keep in mind. So the very first bullet point is a really important point that I know I definitely have a hard time remembering. You don't have to reply right away or at all. Replying immediately almost all the time leads to more conflict because we're usually responding from our emotional brain. And it makes sense. We're being attacked, so we're getting pushed into our emotional brain, maybe even our survival brain, when really we need to be operating in our logical brain, especially if the other person is trying to gaslight you. Now, if you know this person tends to gaslight other people, then be prepared for that. There's no reason that they're not going to gaslight you or push back on what you're saying, especially if you've seen them do it with other people in the past. This person will gaslight you if you engage with them. If you engage, kind of like I guess the point I'm trying to make is be prepared and try not to get caught in the gaslighting behavior. It is totally okay to not engage, and it's totally okay to not reply to someone who's trying to gaslight you. It's okay to reply, and it's okay not to reply. But if you do choose to reply, I guess the summary of this first point is be prepared for them to gaslight you and be prepared to try and stay calm. So, and again, it's also totally okay to not reply at all and to just leave it. So if you choose to reply, or if you're still deciding, either way, it's really good to go to the second point, take a breath, and think on why this is offensive or hurtful to me. Now, I know therapists talk about taking a breath all the time, and the reason we bring that up is because, one, it makes us slow down and actually take a deep belly breath. It also helps us get more oxygen to our brain so that we can start to get out of our emotional or survival brain and get more into our logical brain. So being able to organize and formulate your response will keep it focused. It's also going to help you decide if you even want to engage and reply or not, because if you can really get down to what am I actually wanting to communicate? Why does this hurt me? So an assertive response would be around explaining why the commenter or the original poster is being offensive or hurtful, or why what they're saying is misinformed. Gaslighters will try to get you off topic. So this will help you stay on topic too if you can formulate what exactly am I trying to communicate here, because then you're always going to be able to bring the conversation back to what you're trying to say, no matter how hard the person gaslighting might try to derail the conversation or try to flip it around in some way or twist what you were saying. If a gaslighter tries to change the topic, you can say we can discuss that after this topic. Now, they're gaslighting you, so there's a good chance that they're going to try and make it feel like you're being too controlling or dismissive or whatever they're going for. But the point of that is to try to get you to question yourself and lose focus on what you're trying to communicate, and so that they can try and make a point to control the conversation and the narrative of what's going on. So once you've sat through and kind of thought through what exactly am I feeling, why am I feeling it, and what do I want to say if I want to say anything, the third step is very important. A lot of people want to skip this step. But once you have that all figured out, talk with a trusted person. Now, I do say if that is helpful, because I know some people say I don't have a trusted person, or I don't always find that very helpful, especially if you're more of an internal processor than external processor. But I would really encourage, once you've figured out what you're feeling, why you're feeling it, and what you want to do about it, talk it out with somebody. Just use them as a sounding board. This will help you decide how to engage the conversation and how to keep it on topic and to keep it as productive as possible. It may also help you decide if you even want to engage, because you may go through your internal process and feel very confident, okay, I know what I want to say, do you want to engage? And then when you talk to another person and actually start getting those thoughts out, you might start organizing your feelings and what you want to say more and better so that you're even more articulate and even more able to stay on topic. Or you might start to realize, you know what, this isn't even worth my time or my energy. And that's totally okay too. That is always an option. So to review, really what I wanted people to get out of this video today is social media is still a really new thing in our society and to our species. And we're figuring a lot of it out. And part of figuring that out is we do need to start learning and talking about how to stay safe on social media, because there are a lot of people with very passionate ideas and can get very tense. And gaslighting is a very real thing that exists in our world, especially on social media. So that, and I hope the other takeaways are knowing, one, if somebody tries to engage you in an aggressive or passive-aggressive way, whether it's gaslighting or whatever we want to call it, you don't have to engage. And if you choose to engage, remember, take a breath, think through, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling it? And if I engage, what do I want to communicate? And then talk about it with a trusted person, or even more. There could be more than one trusted person you want to talk to. I don't think it hurts to have more than one perspective or thought on it when it comes to sounding boards. And then if you do decide to engage, which is totally okay, just be prepared that if a person doesn't like what you're saying, there is a really good chance that they might push back and there might be some gaslighting in their response. They may be aware of it and they might not be. Okay, well, that's all I have for this video. So like and subscribe if you found this video helpful, and please in the comments definitely feel free to share any questions you might have or even any insights that you might have that I might have missed. I'm going to be making more videos that are going to focus more on gaslighting, social media, ways to protect your privacy on specific platforms, but mostly I'm going to be focusing on more ways to try and stay emotionally and mentally safe in navigating social media. Okay, have a good one.